Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me once again is Senator Tammy Duckworth. Senator, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate you joining me today because I want to talk about this letter you sent Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem earlier this month. And in the letter, you accused DHS's general counsel of issuing what you called repeated tacit threats to the DHS Inspector General's office, which serves as the department's independent watchdog. And you said that these threats were reminders that Noem has the authority to kill or prevent any of their investigations, inspections, or audits. So to start off the conversation, what did you find out that prompted you to write this letter in the first place?
Well, I had several conversations, and we'd seen the email from Secretary Noem basically to her, the Office of the Inspector General, which should be completely independent, basically reminding them that you serve at, I can fire you anytime, and President Trump can fire you anytime, essentially, trying to intimidate the Office of the independent counsel from actually doing their jobs. And, I was very concerned because the OIG should actually be an independent office. That's what inspector generals do. They run an independent office, nonpartisan, and that way they can truly investigate with full transparency. And so I sent a letter to her saying, hey, are you really trying to intimidate them? And frankly, I'm shocked because they responded right away. And their response, instead of simply denying that that's what they're trying to do, actually confirm that, yeah, we're here to intimidate, and we're going to make sure that we are, that we're proud of our efforts to sabotage Inspector General's independence. Astonishing, astonishing.
I mean, talk about that response a little more fully. Did they specifically straight up say, yes, we are trying to intimidate the Inspector General here?
Well, they're saying yes. They're sending these letters, and that they're saying that that they have every right to do so, which is not how inspector generals are supposed to be treated. But remember, this is the same Trump administration that has been firing inspector generals indiscriminately, and have been firing JAG officers so that they can operate outside of legal norms.
I want to talk about your meeting with the DHS Inspector General. Did it appear that he or anyone in his office took these reminders as threats?
The sense that I got was that he took these reminders very seriously. I see that this is the behavior that I'm seeing from other inspectors generals as well. And also remember that they are appointing political appointees to inspector general positions across the government. At VA, for example, they've done that as well. And really, the Office of the Inspector General in whatever department is supposed to be fully independent. And the Trump administration is violating one of those, it's a tenet of how IGs are supposed to work.
Are those reminders that Noem could kill or prevent any investigation from the Inspector General, is that impeding any investigations?
I think it is. I think it is. And we're going to continue to follow up on this to make sure that we dig into this and see what exactly that they're doing, and to try to find out what investigations have been killed. So, for example, some of the things that we've called for has been investigations into some of the ICE officers who've been involved in violence, both in Chicago but also in Minneapolis. Those investigations should be fully independent and should be more than just DHS or ICE investigating itself. But we're seeing this pattern develop, and we're going to make sure that we continue to investigate and find out exactly what type of undue influence Secretary Noem is putting on the Office of Inspector General in order to kill investigations that would show wrongdoing by ICE officers.
I'm sure in your meeting with the DHS IG, you brought up the fact that you thought this was influencing investigations in some way. What was the response there? Did they confirm that? Did they deny that? What did that look like?
I think he was very uncomfortable in his conversation with me, and he neither confirmed nor denied, but I could tell that he was very uncomfortable and that he was in a place where he has a U.S. Senator asking him this, but at the same time, he's got these threats from a cabinet secretary. And frankly, them responding as quickly as they did to my letter to confirm that this is, in fact, what we're doing is sending another message to that Office of Inspector General, and they're trying to shut down these investigations.
I don't think, based on your letter, because I did read the letter, that's not the response that you wanted. So what do you want to see from DHS Secretary Noem now?
Well, what I want to see, this is part of the fight that we're having here over the DHS's budget, right? One of the three major uh, uh, one of the three major buckets of things that Democrats want is independent investigations. And so we're not going to vote for a budget for DHS unless independent investigations are part of that. We cannot have organizations like ICE investigating itself. And if the secretary is not going to acknowledge OIG independence, then we're going to make sure that we force it on them.
How would you force it, OIG independence, on them? What would that really look like?
Well, that would be part of what we're demanding as part of the negotiations over the DHS budget, right? I've had several proposals, for example, for independent investigation, so that's more than just one agency, so that ICE is not just inspecting itself, that you can bring in the FBI, you can bring in other agencies, that there are joint investigations of officer-involved violence, especially when it comes to shootings, especially when you're dealing with the shocking brutality and dangerous violence that we've witnessed in Illinois and in Minneapolis. And so that it's not just one agency that's investigating itself, but that is part of the negotiations that we're in right now, engaging in right now over the DHS budget.
You know, I'm hearing what you're saying about this meeting you have with the DHS IG. It seems like, based on your characterization, he's squirming when you ask, essentially, has any investigation been compromised? What does that look like? I mean, if he's squirming, can't even answer your question there, do you think he needs to be out then?
Well, but then they would just put somebody else in that's exactly like this person, right? Because the people that stood up to Donald Trump are gone. And he's illegally fired many of them and put into place folks who are not going to be independent, who are going to bow down to Secretary Noem when she says, "Hey, you need to kill this investigation." So I don't know that getting rid of him and replacing him with somebody who's equally spineless going to do it. The problem that we have right now is that my Republican colleagues need to stand up and agree that these what most Americans want, which is transparency and independent investigations.
Before we get to those DHS negotiations and what you want to see when it comes to reforms there, I do want to read a statement from DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin. This is what she said to NBC. Senator Duckworth is arguing that a Senate-confirmed cabinet secretary shouldn't use an existing section of federal law because she doesn't think it should exist. She also added this: if Senator Duckworth and her fellow Democrats do not like the law that Congress already passed, they, as members of Congress, have full constitutional authority under Article 1 to change the law and assuage their concerns. What do you make of her response there?
Well, that's what these negotiations are over, right? We're going to force that to happen as part of the appropriations process, that they will have to have independent investigations. The fact that they're bold-faced saying that we are going to interfere with the independence of offices of inspector generals just shows you how corrupt this administration and the secretary's office at DHS is.
And this funding fight over DHS is coming as the country has seen a really large immigration enforcement operation play out in Minnesota. 2 Americans were killed, shot to death by federal agents in January alone. And polling suggests that even some Republicans think that ICE is too aggressive. ICE has gone too far in their tactics. Now, Democrats want to see reforms to ICE and other guardrails imposed to DHS. So where are the negotiations right now when it comes to DHS funding?
Well, as I said previously, Democrats have been very clear. We want 3 main buckets in our negotiations. We want to end these indiscriminate arrests that are being conducted without judicial warrants. ICE is showing up with these administrative ICE warrants that are signed by an officer within ICE that's within DHS that says that, oh, this is a warrant. That's not a true warrant. A judicial warrant is what you're supposed to have when you're going after hardened criminals. So we want to end the use of these administrative warrants, and if they're going to arrest anybody, they have to have judicial warrants. We're asking, what we're pushing for is enhanced oversight and making sure that state and local authorities can conduct independent investigations. So not only are we going to rely on the OIG, but we're going to also allow states and local authorities to investigate as well. That's one of the things that DHS is doing, is they're trying to freeze out local law enforcement from conducting investigations into violence against their own citizens. And then the third one is that they have to identify themselves. Take off your mask, and you wear your body cameras and identify yourself as ICE. We're seeing over and over again that ICE is actually either not wearing body cameras, have them turn off, or when there is footage, they're refusing to turn those over. And Americans want transparency. Those are three very reasonable buckets of demands that Democrats have in exchange for passing the budget for DHS. And I think most Americans would agree that nobody should come arrest them without a judicial warrant. Most Americans want ICE to be identified so that they know who these masked gunmen are who show up in your city streets in black SUVs and grab people off the streets. And people want to know that law enforcement is wearing body camera.
And as you know, you just have a few days to pass this budget. Democrats and Republicans have to come together. Do you think that we're close to a compromise here, or do you think DHS is going to shut down in a few days?
Well, that's up to Leader Thune, and that's up to my Republican colleagues. We've laid out on the table what exactly we think is important, and they need to take our demands seriously. If they're going to shut down government, then that is their decision to do so. They're the power, they're the ones that are in power in the White House. They're in charge in the Senate. They're in charge in the House of Representatives. They have the option to not cause this shutdown. All they have to do is negotiate with us.
Senator Duckworth, I always appreciate your time in our conversations. You're welcome back anytime. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.